Welcome, everyone, to our National Crop Celebration for 2024. It is thrilling, exciting to see so many people on the call with us tonight. My name is Nick Leah, and I am the community engagement specialist here at CWS. And I'm going to be one of the facilitators for tonight, alongside my colleague Roberta. Roberta, want to say a quick hello?
Hi, everyone. I'm Roberta Smith, and I'm a community engagement specialist based in North Carolina.
We'd love for you to take a quick minute to post in the chat what crop hunger walk you're a part of. And to any of my CESs on the call, check the chat and say hello to your people. As you do, I'm just going to cover a few housekeeping notes. So please remain muted, but if you have any questions, we encourage you to use the Q&A function on your menu bar, and we'll get to your questions as they come in. I want to encourage you to have your phones available nearby, as we're going to do a word cloud activity a little later in the evening. And the more responses we get, the cooler it's going to look, I promise. Please note that we are recording and that the video will be uploaded.
I think we lost Nick.
So it looks like he's still there, but he's muted.
I think his internet is doing it.
Okay. So I'll just keep going
Yeah, sorry.
until he's able to join us again. So Nick was covering just a few housekeeping things, and he had mentioned that the video will be recorded. This conversation will be recorded, and it will be uploaded to the Crop Hunger Walk Facebook page following tonight. In case you're unable to stick around for the whole night, you can revisit and watch it along with your planning team members. So let's talk a little bit about what you can expect tonight. You can expect an evening of celebration. We have so much to celebrate. We're celebrating our walkers, our volunteers, and leaders who represent the heart and soul of Crop Hunger Walks. Tonight, we will have an update from Zack Wolgemuth, Director of Emergency Preparedness, Response, and Recovery, on our current efforts and long-term plans regarding the hurricanes. We'll hear from one of our local agencies and highlight a few of our walks that went above and beyond this year. In just a moment, we'll be featuring a welcome video from our President and CEO, Rick Santos. But before we show you that, we'd love to know more about how many crop hunger walks you have walked in. So the survey will pop up on the screen. If not, you can throw it in the chat. All right, Nick, you can take it away.
Awesome. Looks like I'm back. So we have got a couple of first-time walkers here. Congratulations and thank you so much for being a part of the Crop Hunger Walk. We've got some veterans here as well who've walked for over 20 years. Amazing to think of the difference you've made in all of those walks. So thank you so much for continuing to be a part of it. And now a word of welcome from Rick Santos.
Hi, I'm Rick Santos, and I'm President and CEO of Church World Service. You know, I've been at Church World Service at two different points in my career. The first part of my career, over 25 years ago, I was overseas in Asia, working for Church World Service, implementing programs directly. And today I have the honor and privilege of being the CEO. I've also met a lot of crop hunger walkers over the years, and also the crop hunger walk leadership at Church World Service. And I have to say, they are some of my favorite people, both in the organization and those who support what we do. The Crop Hunger Walks have been supporting the work of Church World Service for over 55 years and have raised millions of dollars to provide food, voice, and a safe place to call home for so many vulnerable people. So thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do, for your leadership in planning your walk, leading teams, inspiring generosity, and walking miles to end hunger. Because of people like you and the walks that you do, Church World Service is able to do life-sustaining work around the world. I have so many favorite programs that have been supported by the Crop Hunger Walks over the years. The one I saw most recently was in the Tana River region of Kenya, in a place that had suffered drought for over 5 years. And Church World Service and Crop Hunger Walk funds were helping feed families suffering from drought, helping give nutrition to children. It really was inspiring to see. Some of my other favorite programs that the Crop Hunger Walks have funded over the years are those in Asia where I worked. I remember doing 2 different types of clean water projects in Vietnam. We did wells, boreholes for communities that did not have water. We also did gravity flow systems that gave an entire community, over 200 people, clean water. So these are just some examples of just the wonderful work that we do through your generosity. I know that you also support your walk by making personal donations and asking your friends and family to financially support the walks as well. And thank you for that. It shows that you're really invested in this work. And I do want to say that at Church World Service, I am both a sustaining giver, so I give monthly, and I have a crop hunger walk through my local church. So I'm invested in this work. I'm invested in how we raise money for it around crop hunger walks. I'm invested in helping people who are in need, both here in the US and overseas. We are partners in this together, in this work together. We try to end hunger around the block and around the world together. And for that, I thank you so much.
All right, so that was our CEO, Rick Santos. If you were listening to Rick's message and want to just say just one thing that stuck out to you about his message, we would love to hear from you. All right. Well, we'll keep moving along. Our next speaker is Zack Wolgemuth, our Director of Emergency Preparedness, Response and Recovery Program at CWS. Over the last several months, several communities have been devastated by hurricanes. We recall most recently Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton that affected parts of Florida and Western North Carolina. Hurricane Helene hit Asheville, North Carolina on Sunday, September 29th, the same day as the Asheville Buncombe Crop Hunger Walk. Course was canceled to ensure the safety of our volunteers and our walkers. Today, the community continues to recover and families are working on returning their lives to some sense of normalcy. Even though the actual walk didn't happen, Asheville congregations and walk teams have continued to send money for the walk. They've raised over $18,228 so far. And in doing that, they've hit their $1 million milestone. Their cumulative total for 45 years of walking is now $1,017,792. Congratulations to the walk planners, the participants, and the entire Asheville community. We applaud your resilience and your commitment to this important work that's helping to bring help, healing, and hope to so many people. You're truly a reflection of the CWS crop spirit of serving our neighbors. As a reminder, part of this year's Crop Hunger Walk funds will directly support the recovery efforts you hear about tonight. So let's welcome Zack to share updates with us. Zack will take a few questions at the end of his presentation. So please type your questions in, or you may say them out after Zack's presentation. Here you go, Zack. Welcome to our program.
Today, just grateful for the roles that each of you play in supporting the crop hunger walks. So my introduction to CWS was nearly 40 years ago through crop hunger walks at the age of like 8. And so fast forward a few years, I began my career working as the Associate Director for Church of the Brethren Disaster Ministries. From there, transitioned to the Executive Director for the United Church of Christ Disaster Ministries, and then to the Director of Programs at the York County Food Bank about a month before the pandemic started. And the reason I bring this up is because in each one of those roles that I worked with CWS. When I was with the Church of the Brethren and the UCC, I interacted with Church World Service around disaster response and recovery efforts. When I was at the food bank, our food bank supported the Crop Hunger Walk in the organizing of the Crop Hunger Walk in our location. And we also were the local recipient of the funds that were kept back for the local community to support hunger initiatives. So all this to say, I've not been able to get away from CWS because CWS works in partnership, which I believe is really the magical thing about the organization and what makes this organization unique. So just wanted to start off with that. I've only got a few minutes, so this is going to be very much a high level, very quick, just overview of the Emergency Preparedness, Response, and Recovery Program. And I'll sprinkle in a couple of details around some of our work related to Helene and Milton. But I want to talk more importantly about kind of like the 3 main phases of disaster that we support. As the name suggests, emergency preparedness, response, and recovery. We support preparedness initiatives, response efforts, and also recovery. In the preparedness phase, we focus very closely on and heavily on supporting immigrant populations and communities. We have a direct connection with a lot of these communities through a number of our resettlement offices around the country. So we've built up trust. We have cultural competency within our staff. We have staff that speak native languages. And so some of the things that we've been doing, within my team, and we've been producing a lot of different materials in different types of medium, as well as information that's culturally appropriate, that is in native languages, that's palatable, it's short, it's concise, it's easily shared, all those types of things. So for instance, short videos, series that can be shared among individuals who may not even be aware of what a tornado is or what a hurricane is, depending on what part of the world they've come from. We've also been conducting in-person trainings where we provide translated services. We provide preparedness kits for individuals and communities, and that's been highly successful. And the reason that preparedness is so important, especially in today's day and age as we're experiencing climate change, is that no community is exempt from disaster, right? And the more that we can prepare communities and prepare individuals, the less likely those individuals are to become a statistic. And the more likely they are able to actually be part of the early response. Let's face it, first responders are your neighbors, they're your friends, they're your family in a community that's been impacted by disaster. So we want to make sure that we're preparing communities in safe, appropriate, and effective ways. The other thing that we're doing is we're sharing a lot of this content and our expertise with other disaster response organizations, especially those that provide direct client services early on, to help them really enhance their cultural competency. And so we're really excited about that work. In the response phase, we do a lot of information sharing. We share information in various languages. helping people understand how they should apply for FEMA assistance, how to appeal the process, where to access meals, where to access shelters, how to access donations, which organizations can be trusted. All those types of things are part of our work in the early response phases. We did a lot of this in Helene and Milton. My staff and I were on calls daily with state coordination in several different states were impacted by Helene and Milton. Then kind of consolidating that information and sending it out through our networks so that they knew where to go and what to do. Also, during that early response phase, one of the things that we do is we provide kits and blankets. During Helene and Milton, just Helene and Milton alone, not for this particular year, but just Helene and Milton alone, we shipped over $750,000 worth of cleanup buckets, hygiene kits, blankets, and other supplies to impacted communities where it was needed the most. Additionally, in the response phase, we've done a lot with temporary housing. We had the privilege of receiving a grant that has allowed us to provide some temporary housing for individuals that might be in unique circumstances and not necessarily eligible for other types of assistance. This also included helping folks during the evacuation phase, especially low-income individuals who may not have had access to specific types of transportation or the ability to book a hotel or an Airbnb or something to get out of harm's way. And so we did that for dozens of families during Helene and Milton and continue to do that today, even in the recovery phase. In the recovery phase, CWS takes a little bit of a unique approach. We try to be extremely nimble, adjustable, and flexible in the way that we go about our work, understanding that the context, the needs, and the circumstances in every single community are very different, and every disaster is different and looks unique. And so just an example of that is we pivoted not too long ago in a different disaster, but we also did this with Helene. We provided direct cash assistance to migrant farm workers, $100 for over 250 farm workers that basically did not have work because the crops had been destroyed. And they had sent their money back home to family and friends that they were supporting. And so so that cash assistance was enough to kind of hold them over until the next harvest. Many of these workers go from farm to farm. They might be harvesting tobacco or sweet potatoes or pumpkins, several weeks, and then they move on to Christmas trees in December, late November and December. And so this type of cash assistance was able to hold them over so that they were not needing to figure out other forms or go hungry, quite frankly, without having access to food. So that was one way that we pivoted, with the disasters. Technical assistance is also a way that we support long-term recovery efforts. In-house, we have a lot of folks that have supported long-term recovery efforts over the years and understand how and when to leverage different types of resources. And speaking of leveraging resources, back to those partnerships, right? CWS, we're always working in partnership. And so network connections that we maintain help us connect local long-term recovery groups. These are kind of the safety net in communities with the right individuals, organizations, and resources that they need in the long term. Unfortunately, the impacted communities from Helene and Milton are going to be in the recovery phase for years, if not decades. And so it is a marathon and not a sprint. And so we're there to kind of support those communities for the long haul, providing them with that technical expertise and also the connections that they need to recover. Lastly, I'll just say that, even though just returned from North Carolina here before Thanksgiving, myself and another team member actually headed to Florida to do some assessment work from Hurricane Milton next week. And so we'll be meeting with organizations and doing some of the similar things that we did in North Carolina prior to Thanksgiving. And what I can say about that time is that many of those meetings with organizations and the stories that we heard from survivors really only affirm the need for us to continue the hard work of preparing communities, of providing technical assistance, of filling gaps in services, and leveraging partnerships. And it's not always that this type of disaster response effort makes a big splash or necessarily ends up on the evening news. Even though the cameras aren't necessarily there, that's precisely why this is so important, because it's what matters to the people whom it should matter to the most. Lastly, I'm just going to say that if any of you do figure out how to escape from the gravitational pull of CWS, like, please let me know. I'll put my email in the chat. Joking, of course, but I will put my email in the chat for questions, even if there are questions after this call. Thank you so much for all you do. Appreciate being with you tonight.
Thank you so much, Zach. We've got one question that had come into the chat, but also just as a little announcement for everybody, we are aware the chat is disabled. That was something we didn't catch ahead of time. But the Q&A function can work just as well for the chat. So if you want to let us know where you're from, you can still do that in the chat. Or if you have some questions that you want to ask Zach, throw them in there, and we'll make sure to lift up a couple of those in the next few minutes. But Zach, we do have one question for you that came in. How do folks in need find CWS, or does CWS find them, especially here in the US?
Yeah, that's a great question. So all disasters begin and end locally. When it comes to, finding CWS, if you will, like I said, we're always working in partnership. So even when it comes to like our kits and blankets that we provide after disasters, oftentimes that's through a direct partner, a community-based organization that's already on the ground, right? So CWS doesn't necessarily, like, we don't have case managers that go out and provide direct assistance. We don't cook meals after disasters. Without getting into a lot of detail, there are dozens and dozens of organizations, and we're part of this network, that come in at different points along kind of the continuum of disaster response and recovery. And we're there to support those organizations, again, with material aid, with technical assistance, with cultural competency, with linguistic abilities, all those kinds of things. But we're not necessarily the ones that are cooking the meals, right? There's dozens of organizations that do that. So really, our job is to get the information to communities or individuals that may not necessarily be aware of those services. That's one of the biggest things we do, is making sure that that information is pushed out. Especially after disasters, information is power, because there are so many different types of supports that are available. Knowing where to go, who to go to, and how to access those resources are key. And that's the biggest role that CWS plays. And so I don't know if that kind of answers the question or not, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of a snapshot. We could take all night talking about this, but I know my time is short.
That's great, Zach. We're going to give it about one more minute to see if we got any other questions that come rolling in specific for you.
So there's a question about from Tina Dickens that says, I've heard that Spruce Pine, North Carolina still needs a lot of help. Is there a plan to go there? I believe that question was for Zach.
I'm not familiar specifically with the needs in Spruce Pine. We did not get to every single community in Western North Carolina, even though in that week we put on about 1,700 miles on the rental vehicle, just to give you an idea. It is extremely challenging because the damages from these storms in particular were so widespread. I know a lot of the focus has been on North Carolina and Florida, but it also impacted multiple other states, from southern West Virginia to Tennessee to Georgia to South Carolina and so on. So no, we don't have a large staff. So my staff is relatively small. I'm not specifically familiar with the needs there. If you do have a contact there, I'd be more than happy to follow up at some point and figure out if we have any connections that we can help out with.
Great. And there's one more question. I'm not sure if you can answer this, Zach, but there's a question from Mary Jane. Can you come to Erie, Pennsylvania, or send help? We're snowed in and more coming. It's crazy here. She's with the Erie County Crop Hunger Walk.
Yeah, so I know Erie is. I was on a call today actually with our network. We're part of this large umbrella network. And I know that the needs in Erie, there was a call for volunteers actually to come help shuttle people out, essentially. So we don't have a team or a cadre of volunteers to do that type of work. The one thing that I did offer on that coordination call was that we do have blankets available if there's a need for shipping blankets to that area. That we could, definitely ship blankets to a partner that has the ability to distribute those in that area. So yes, I definitely hear you about the need in Erie. And just so you are aware, there is a larger network that is aware of that need, and hopefully some supports will come from one of those organizations that does have a cadre of volunteers to do that type of work. And I would be surprised if it doesn't, because we know that the need is great.
And I think there was another a great question that came in. Maybe we'll just do this last one. Who are the CWS partners working to help people who suffered from Helene?
Oh, yeah, I can't mention all the partners, to be honest with you. We've worked with several different local community-based organizations. We host calls and work closely with our covenant members. So, I don't want to miss anybody, but, just to give you a rough idea who some of our covenant members are, I know I'm going to miss a few: the United Church of Christ, Church of the Brethren Disaster Ministries, Disciples of Christ Week of Compassion, Lutheran Disaster Response, UMCOR, so on and so forth. So they are some of the partners that we're coordinating with. But we are coordinating also with a number of other partners, again, local community-based organizations. El Futuro es Nuestro, which is a migrant farm worker association that supports migrant farm workers and works closely with the growers to make sure that folks are safe and treated fairly, and several other organizations on the ground. Honestly, too many to list here on this call.
Thanks, Zach. And we know there are other questions. So if you have questions that you didn't get to ask tonight, please forward those questions to your CES, and they'll make sure to get them to Zach, and we'll be sure to get the responses back to you. So back to you, Nick.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zach, for everything. Great to have you with us. Alrighty, so you remember how I mentioned up at the top to have your phones nearby for a word cloud activity? Well, we're at that point. So we're going to share something on the screen, and we'd love for you to participate.
I just requested sharing because I apparently can't, Heather. So could you?
I did.
Okay, great. All right. It will be on the screen in 1 second. All right.
There we go. Okay. So my friends, if you would like to participate, we want to ask you to scan the QR code with your phones and then submit one or maybe just a few words on how you're feeling, knowing the difference your steps are making, especially in response to Hurricanes Helene and Milton. And at the conclusion of the event, we're going to share what that word cloud looks like. So we'll give you about 30 seconds to submit the word that you want to say. One of the things that I love most about the Crop Hunger Walk is how it is truly a holistic approach to ending hunger. It's not just globally, but a major emphasis is on the local level as well. And we know that our local agencies have seen a drastic increase in need over this past year. And we are humbled by the way that each of them has stepped up to the need. Our next speaker is Ruth Kittner. She's the executive director of the Wilkinsburg Community Ministry out of Pittsburgh. And she's going to give a firsthand account of the way that they are responding to the need and how the Crop Hunger Walk is a help in that. Ruth, we want to thank you so much for joining us, and we're excited to hear what you have to share.
Unmute. Okay.
There you are.
We've been participating at Wilkinsburg Community Ministry. We're actually not in Pittsburgh, we're outside of Pittsburgh. We've been participating for, I think, 20 years. And the same church has done has been taking the lead on it. We get a group of churches and schools together to raise awareness for hunger. 25% of the funds come to us at Wilkinsburg Community Ministry, and the rest go to Church World Service for its worldwide programs. Hunger in America is, as you know, quite different than it is in, say, South Sudan or Rwanda or Myanmar. Here we have the infrastructure that should be helping us feed everybody. We just don't utilize it. The food is too expensive. The control of the food is in the hands of only a few organizations, companies, and mega companies. And there are food billionaires created every year, every quarter. It's outrageous, I think, that food costs so much when it is so necessary. Obviously, in this country, we don't burn the fields and salt the soil as happens elsewhere, but we just price things out of the reach of, 25 to 30% of the population. And so we serve probably, and in a 4-hour period, we give groceries to families, to 85 to 95 families. We also have a mobile pantry that goes to 6 sites a week and serves another 65 to 70 families at each site. In a month, we'll give away 50 to 70,000 pounds of food. Families can come up to twice a week. They can take the food they need to feed their families. They're supposed to cook it at home, but we get probably every day we get it, or every week we get 10 homeless families, and so they cook it where they cook it. We don't ask a lot of questions about it. They know that they can come to us for help if they need it. We often provide can openers, blankets, pots and pans. Periodically, we provide sleeping bags. We do get the Church World Service kits for toiletries and school supplies, and we partner with our local school system to make sure the kids have backpacks to take things home in, like food for the weekend. And we do what we can do. For every hour of staff time, we have an hour and a half of volunteer time behind them. Prepping food, make sure it's clean, it's edible, it's properly labeled, and get it on the shelves. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Nick, Andrew?
If y'all got any questions that you want to submit for Ruth, you can use the Q&A function.
This year we had about a few over 100 walkers. They all had T-shirts. If you go to our Facebook page, we have pictures posted. If you go to Waverly Church, there's pictures posted there. That's the Presbyterian church that spearheads the walk. We meet on on the ladies' front porch, and Andrew joins us. It's a happy family. They all know each other. There's probably 12 churches that participate, plus sundry strays that show up. Some of them have, a couple men joined because they had walked back when they were children with their parents, and they came back this year to walk with us again. We have three
Wonderful.
length walks. One is very short because probably half of our folks are quite frail. They've been walking many years. And then we have a 1.5 mile walk and a 5 mile walk.
Amazing, Ruth. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And we've seen a couple comments come through in the Q&A of people celebrating your work. And so we wish you all the best, and we are so thankful to be a partner with you. Roberta,
Thank you.
take it away.
Awesome. Thanks again, Ruth. We really appreciate it. I was so excited to hear about your mobile pantry. I know that's so important when you can take food to families in the community, and especially those who are unhoused. I would imagine the winters are brutal in Pittsburgh, and so being able to serve people who are unhoused is truly a real blessing. So thank you for all the important work that
I'm
you
very
do.
glad we're not in Erie.
Yeah, I
I
know.
mean, it's the
Yeah.
lake is the bottom of the lake is showing, and
Yeah.
we okay. Lisa had a question there. We get a lot of things donated. We get things donated from Costco. We get things donated from Whole Foods, Giant Eagle, which is a local foods store. We have a partnership with the local food bank, and we have we collaborate with an organization called 412 Food Rescue, which drives to different places, restaurants and distributors, and brings us what they don't want. And we distribute that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. If there are other questions for Ruth, please direct those questions to Andrew, and I'm sure he'll be able to get Ruth to respond to them. So next, we want to do a quick poll. This next year, we will have a new theme for our Crop Hunger Walks. So we want to invite you to guess what you think our theme will be for next year. Vote now, and please stick around to the end of our celebration when we'll reveal the theme. So you can go ahead and vote now. We'll give you a quick second, a couple of seconds to vote. All right. We hope that you've had a chance to cast your vote and stick around to the end of our celebration, and we'll reveal our new theme for next year. All right. So well, there we go. We have the results already. So the options were let us turn up the beat on hunger. We had 29% voted for that. Raise money for crop, 11%, and then chickens, beans, and big dreams is 60%. So hey, why not? I'll go ahead and tell you now that the majority of our folks won. Chickens, beans, and big dreams is our theme for next year. So we'll move on to our slide presentation. And Heather, if you could pull that up for us. You know, tonight we've set aside this time to really celebrate the success of Crop Hunger Walks this year. We would love to recognize all of our walks. However, of course, the time we have allotted will not permit us to do so. So we've identified a few walks that we want to highlight. And these walks either had their best walk ever, their best walk in 15 years, or they surpassed their walk goal by at least 10%. We know that there are so many other walks who meet this criteria. But again, because of time limitations, we will only highlight a few of them. If you're on this call and your walk is mentioned, just shout it out in the Q&A chat so that we can all celebrate you and your team's incredible work this year. So let's go ahead and pull up our first walk. First on the list is our Winston-Salem Forsyth County Crop Hunger Walk in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. This walk had its best year in 15 years. They increased participation with over 550 walkers. This was their 42nd annual crop walk, and they have raised $2.5 million since 1979. They had a great walk day experience with a fun festival. They had a radio DJ and a live band. They had children's education stations with prizes. They had face painting and a selfie booth. A rah-rahs cheerleading group was there. They had a celebrity MC, and then they have some after walk ice cream. Awesome job. Way to go, Winston-Salem.
Next up, we want to take a minute to celebrate our people at the New Bern Crop Hunger Walk. New Bern Crop Hunger Walk had its best year ever. Planning on purpose made the difference for new leadership with the New Bern Crop Hunger Walk, where they had more than 500 walkers who contributed to raising over $50,000. They did great work with targeting focus on sponsorships and then converting some of those sponsorships into walking teams. And they had a really fun walk day event with some activities like music, games, and face painting. Congratulations, New Bern.
Next up, we have Barrington Area Crop Hunger Walk in Illinois. And this walk had their best walk in 15 years. They had their best fundraising year since 2010, and they raised more than $47,000. The local high school lacrosse team was the largest represented team at the walk, and this team raised over $500. They had an excellent planning team, terrific communication, and the largest number of walkers since the pandemic. Congratulations, awesome job.
All right, friends, next up, we're celebrating the Greater York Crop Hunger Walk. I mean, you can see here alone, there's a whole lot to celebrate for New York. This is a walk that exceeded its goal by over 15%, and they had lots of innovation as part of their walk. For example, they introduced the first ever crop run alongside their walk. And in addition to that, they packed 72 kits that helped out in places like Hurricane Helene. They partnered with a major financial group. They had a forward-thinking and innovative planning committee. They created an inclusive walk day experience for volunteers of all ages, and they successfully blended fundraising, community engagement, and service. Congratulations, Greater York.
So, next we have Camarillo Crop Hunger Walk in California. And this walk had its best year ever. Celebrating its 41st annual crop walk, they achieved more than 22.7% increase in contributions from the previous year. They had an exceptional organizing planning team. They had a smooth registration process, had a clearly marked route, and the event ran seamlessly. The team's strategic outreach and meticulous preparation helped make the 41st crop walk unforgettable. It was the most impactful year ever. Congratulations, Camarillo.
All right, friends, we have the excellent Crop Hunger Walk of Cass County. This is a walk in our category that's exceeded its income by over 10%. And they have really creative walk day activities. As you can see from the picture, every year they have a educational component as part of their walk that has a theme, and this year it involved chickens. Their walk day and their meetings are fun, and as a result, they had an almost 30% increase from last year. Congratulations, amazing work.
Next up, we have Farmington Hills, West Bloomfield Crop Hunger Walk in Michigan. This walk had its best year ever. The Farmington Farm Hills West Bloomfield Crop Hunger Walk exceeded its fundraising goal by over 20%. The team has exceptional walk leadership. They've had a 10% increase in walk income since 2023. They had a great ecumenical group participation, and this year celebrated their 43rd year of walking in the community. So thank you so much.
All right, next up, we're going to be celebrating our friends at the Glendale Foothill Communities Crop Hunger Walk. This is another walk that achieved its goal by passing over 10% of its goal. In fact, they've managed to go by over 20%. And the walk has doubled its participation compared to last year. Absolutely amazing work. They had a festive walk day experience that was held at the heart of the community, and it's almost back to its pre-COVID levels. Congratulations, Glendale.
All right, next up is Greater Lexington Crop Hunger Walk in Kentucky. This walk had its best year ever. They hit their long-time goal of $30,000, and multiple teams raised more than $1,000. They had multiple local business engagement events. They had a Dine to Donate event and an ice cream pint for a purpose event. They had a record number of walkers, 231 that were present on walk day. And then they had a large online remote walk team as well. So congratulations on meeting your goal.
All right, next up, we're looking to celebrate the Vienna Crop Hunger Walk. The Vienna Crop Hunger Walk has exceeded its goal by over 10% with a great walk day experience with things like an education station, temporary tattoos, and of course, snacks. Who doesn't love that? And we love the innovation they brought by providing a flexible opportunity for the walk with various start times. We know how it can be sometimes with kids' soccer schedules on Sundays, right? They're a welcoming and a dedicated planning team, and they're a joy to work with. Congratulations to you, Vienna.
All right, next is Greater Nashua Crop Hunger Walk. Greater Nashua had its best year in 15 years. This walk succeeds as a multi-community, multi-generational, interfaith celebration of the work it takes to end global hunger. It's well attended with more than 300 people from all faiths in the area. It's a great walk that goes through downtown Nashua and brings all of the community together to show their commitment to ending global hunger. Thank you so much, Greater Nashua.
Next up, we are celebrating the Penn Trafford Harrison City Crop Hunger Walk. This amazing event has increased its participation and revenue by 26%. Absolutely amazing. And that percent is still rising as we are receiving funds. This is a great example of a small but mighty walk, and we are so proud of the work that you are doing. Congratulations, Penn Trafford.
And then we have Mechanicsburg West Shore Crop Hunger Walk in Pennsylvania. This walk had its best year ever. Mechanicsburg West Shore had a record-breaking year. They raised over $40,000, nearly quadrupling their total in 5 years. 350 community members participated by walking, by jogging, or by using wheelchairs to show their commitment to ending hunger. The event was energized by the Mechanicsburg area high school mascot. They had over 30 teams, including local businesses and hunger agencies that came together in the fight to end world hunger. Thank you so much, Mechanicsburg. All right. So those are the walks that we were going to highlight tonight. Thank you to all of our crop hunger walks. We certainly do appreciate all of the work that goes into planning, organizing, and implementing these crop walks. And as staff, we are just so grateful for the opportunity to walk alongside you in your community as you plan these important events that's helping to end hunger locally as well as globally. So thanks for all that you do. So we're nearing the end of our time together. Right before we had our slideshow, we did our quick poll of for our theme for next year. And we saw that our theme for next year is chickens, beans, and big dreams. So you are right along with us in believing that this should be our theme for this next year. This theme will highlight how something as small as a handful of chickens or a simple gardening kit is empowering communities in Kenya and Tanzania to be more sustainable and respond to a changing climate. I had the chance to visit CWS programs in Tanzania and Kenya this past February, and I saw firsthand the transforming work that you make possible through Crop Hunger Walks. We met many families when we visited that area. However, I was especially inspired by how women are being included and how women are being empowered because of your support. Women who fled war-ravaged countries and probably experienced unspeakable abuse and trauma. Women who once lived with the reality of hunger and poverty, not knowing where their next meal would come from. Women who are mothers, their daughters, their aunties and grandmothers, who lived most of their lives feeling forgotten and alone and destitute, but they're now living in communities where they are raising pigs and chickens, they're growing vegetables, and they're learning how to cook healthy meals for their children. These women now have a voice to speak up and speak out for themselves. All of that is happening because of you. You offer a hand up, you offer healing, you offer hope, and you offer grace to families around the world, including families right here in the US. You are making such a huge difference. In fact, you are the difference. So thank you all so much for that.
As we prepare to close out for tonight, we want to share with you the word cloud visual from all the responses that we got. And thank you so much for participating. As you can see, we had words such as thankful, grateful, proud, energized, hopeful, inspired. Yes, take that inspiration with you next year. Warmth, elated, blessed, and so much more. We love this picture that we were able to create, and you can find this as well as the recording on our Facebook page later on. So thank you again for participating in that. We want to thank you so much for joining us for tonight's celebration. Whether you walked, volunteered, planned, fundraised, or all of the above, you have impacted the life of someone in need locally and globally. And while the final numbers are not yet in, we are well on our way to $6 million raised for 2024. Just take a moment with me, my friends, just to imagine all of the good that you helped to make possible. And now, more of our friends from the FDM team would like to share a brief word of thanks with you. Well, that's what we like to call in the industry a great idea, not always the best execution. It's an amazing video. We'll get that up on Facebook sometime too. But thank you all so much for making this possible. If you didn't get the chance to see our picture slideshow before the webinar started, or you just want to stick around to view it again, We'll be looping that for the next 15 minutes. And just as a reminder, this was recorded and you can find it again on the Crop Hunger Walk Facebook page. So on behalf of all of us here at CWS, we wish you a wonderful night and a very happy holiday season.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will put the link to that video in because it wasn't muted, but yet I could hear it and you guys couldn't. So I will put the link in that in any outgoing emails to everybody with the recording.
Thanks, Heather.